right? You have a lot of turnover, possibly. Kelsey may be finished.
Where I'm looking up average life expectancy. I'm dreaming at this point. Like, I can't. I'm done with the season.
What's the next evolution of Pat Mahomes? And it's weird to be talking about a guy like, what's the next evolution of Pat Mahomes, and he's not 30.
There it is.
You can be anywhere, doing anything, but you're hanging out with us, and we appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in unprecedented territory. I've never done this introduction in my life. I'm not even sure how we segue into the first thing. But here we are. I guess I'm your host today, Kennedy Miller. You can follow me on Twitter at Kennedy Miller at _ Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _ Kennedy Miller _. Alex Goodwin, what's going on, my man?
Grief. I'm distraught. Absolutely distraught, Kennedy Miller. I'd love to come in here. You know, you put on a good face. You know, sometimes when college is going rough and people ask you how school is going, you're like, oh, it's doing great. I'm doing great. Even though you probably got like 2 C's, a D, and F at midterms. Yeah, I can't even do that. I'm the person at Thanksgiving. I think, no, it's going real terrible right now. Absolutely terrible, Kennedy Miller.
As bad as it's going, where can the folks find you on Twitter?
I might delete that damn thing off my phone. All right. But, I mean, you can send me tweets. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm not going to see it for a couple more days. But whenever I get back on there, at Alex Goodwin, TSM, T as in Taka, S as in the strongest sangria I can find, and M as in moonshine, margaritas. Damn it, we've been doing this show for how long? Damn near 9-10 years. Y'all know where I am. It ain't changed.
We've also got a familiar face on the show, our brother Lamar Gafford. Lamar, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I have a feeling here that if you are in the streets of New York City and you are listening to Finetto by Chief Keef, please play for New Jersey, because New Jersey might be gone in about a few days.
That is correct. Alex, you said S as in sangria, but we have to get in the elephant in the room S, which is your San Antonio Spurs, who, if you guys have been living under a rock or not on social media, the Spurs were up on the Knicks by 29 points tonight, and proceeded to blow the largest finals lead of all time. I'm not going to be that guy to give my takes. I understand what it's like, firsthand experience of being a fan, to lose these type of games. I said at the beginning of the show, we are in unprecedented territory, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know if we have ever gone live after one of our teams has suffered such a loss like this. So what I'm going to do is open up the therapy session for my brother, Alex Goodwin, and I will say, Alex, the floor is yours, my friend. Talk about tonight. I know you always refer to 2013 Game 6 against Miami. Is this more heartbreaking than that night?
I'll be able to better answer that question in a few days, possibly a year, maybe 2. But damn it, it's up there. And I'm not going to lie to you. Ken, you mentioned earlier on the last show, you know, this is my 7th NBA Finals watch as a basketball fan. And it is. But I must say, my San Antonio Spurs have had some pretty heartbreaking losses in the playoffs, right? 2004, Derek Fisher, 0.4, right? 2006, we lose Game 7 on our home floor to the Mavericks in the semis. 2012, we win 19-20 straight, and then we get to the conference finals. We win the first 2, and then we lose 4 straight to the Thunder. They go to the finals. 2013, Game 6, Ray Allen. The title was ours. 2015, Game 7 against the Clippers. Chris Paul makes a shot, sends us home in the first round. Zaza Pachulia steps on Kawhi Leonard's ankle. 2017, that was just about the end of Kawhi's tenure in the silver and black. This is top 2, and it might not be 2 in terms of all time, just in terms of like heartbreak as a fan. Game 2 was bad, but this is absolutely worse. By 10 times. At least by 10. You have a 29-point lead. You're cooking, right? Playing the way we need to play. We're getting paint touches. We're shooting the three well. Victor's aggressive. We're all aggressive. We got a great, what I thought was turning into a great Devin Vassell game. He was 4 for 4 from 3 in the first half. But I was thinking to myself, if the lead is under 10 going into the fourth, we might have trouble, right? And we come out in that second half and play what might have been the worst half of basketball I have seen in a very long time. And don't you forget, I just got through 2 of the last 4 years watching 60-loss San Antonio Spurs teams. This was worse than when we had Jeremy Sohan and his Cisco-looking ass trying to play point guard. This is worse. I mean, it was just straight out Murphy's Law. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong in that second half. We weren't aggressive. Our offense got stagnant. No paint touches. Bad shots. Victor again fell in love with jump shots and, thought he was going to summon the spirit of Ray Allen. We were in the bonus, but we refused to attack the basket. Victor misses 2 free throws, and he's like an 87% free throw shooter.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks missed that shot with 13 seconds left. De'Aaron Fox gets the rebound, pull it out, get fouled, make your free throws. And at that point, either they make a 3 and they take it to OT or they lose. Right? There are just so many things that, like as a fan, I don't think, this one is up there. This one is really up there in terms of losses. This one is bad. And bad in a way, we win this game. We're going back to it's a new series. Now it's best 2 out of 3. And we got 2 out of the next 3. We would have 2 of the next possible 3 on our home floor. All you have to do is just do it. You just need one stop. And you got Brunson to take a low percentage shot with Victor all over him. And at this point, all we have to do is go back to, basic basketball. Boxing out. You get the rebound, you win. Instead, in a series that arguably could be 3-1 the other way, or at minimum 2-2, we're on the wrong end of a 3-1. And, frankly, the margin for error is gone. This is on coaching. Come back.
Lamar, what were your thoughts from watching this game tonight?
Just that we thought that the Knicks were going to be dead in the water at that point, and they're down by 29. You felt like the Garden crowd, they were deflated. You saw right before you go into the second half, ESPN at one point was showing all the celebrities and who's on front row, and you see Taylor Swift there, you see Jerry Steinfeld there, you see Adam Sandler and everybody there, and then next thing you know, you see them now all crying like their dog died or something like that. Like that shot that they had right before the second half of a distraught Spike Lee really showed painted the scene of the building. But it just seemed like with the Knicks just kept on battling and fighting, just little by little. You cut it down to 22. People were looking at Taylor Swift, and here she is. She's dancing with her best friends and all that. And people are just thinking, okay, well, they're just down by 22. There surely is not a way that they're going to come back to this. But then going into the third quarter, they get closer and you miss a shot. And then, of course, you're still down by 15. But then it just seemed like what could break right for them did definitely do that. Even at the point where Josh Hart blows the layup, I'm thinking, man, this is probably no way that they're probably going to come back from this. Now you give the momentum going, though, to the Spurs at that point. And it's like Alex said, next thing you know, Women misses the 2 free throws. And then one of the guys steps out of bounds off of the play where Hart plays good defense. And then, of course, you go into the ultimate play that basically decided the whole ball game, where they decided not to cover, they decided not to guard OG at the inbound pass to make it a 5-on-4. Force Brunson to take a bad shot, but then you got OG still able to uncover to come away with the layup to basically win the ball game. And I think it's just hats off to the Knicks for basically coming back in the ball game like that. They didn't fold. They definitely continued this, because they could have easily just said, "Look, we got another game at the crib. We're going back to San Antonio. It's a 2-2 game here." And knowing that if we can definitely get this win in game 5, we go back to game 6, we got it in our gym, even though we're probably going to have a tough situation because with the World Cup, France is going to be there too, and they're probably also, some of the guys from France are probably going to try to go to the Garden and try to invade the Garden to see Victor. They could have just done that, and they didn't do that. They just decided, hey, look, we got to get the chance. They got to win it here. And I think it goes back to, again, with these guys are being in so many battles before, that they realize that, okay, we don't do this now. We at least got to try to, we don't have to get it all in one play. We can at least try to get it done right there. And I just think the resilience there showed. Again, it just looks at Mike Brown, his experience being as a coach there. He's been in these situations before, battling out the way and just doing what he could do just in order to, I guess, keep those guys calm at that moment. And it just came down to, like we said, it came down to coaching, came down to wherewithal, came down to who wanted it more, came down to who was the most composed at that point. And like you said, the Knicks now go up to 3-1, and now we got to see what happens in game 5.
I thought this was a top 10 game of my lifetime, considering the stakes, considering the magnitude. That was a roller coaster of emotions, not even being a fan of either team, right? I picked the Spurs in 6. Lamar and I had picked the Knicks to win a couple of nights ago after our first show to win this game 4. But I wouldn't have been upset if the Spurs tied it up, right? Because then we knew it was just going to be a best of 3 series. Spurs made 14, I want to say 14 threes in the first half, 14 for 26.
14.
And
made 3 the rest of the game. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry.
Party. No, you're fine. These are raw emotions from Alex Goodwin, ladies and gentlemen. I'm at a watch party, and I'm just like, like as a coach, you're like, if they can cut it to 15, like if you can cut it to 15 before half, you got a chance. If you can cut it to 15. So I kept saying it, man. If they can get it to 15, it'll be a game, because at the end of the day, I don't care who wins, but it's been some really good games. So I want to see a really good game. And so they cut it to 15, but like the Spurs were still, like they didn't completely collapse yet, but you could tell that it was coming, because it was a point where they shot like 8 straight threes. Like it was like, what are we doing? And we talked about it after game 3. Wemby has one of the biggest catch rate, like he's probably got the biggest catch radius of all time. Like, when in doubt, how come I can't get something near the rim? So at least he can try and tip it in, or try and, get a lob around the rim. And they just started settling. And we talked about it, right? The thing about these Spurs down the stretch of these games, what is their offense? Who is their go-to guy? And it's like, we don't know, but we know that other team over there, we know who their go-to guy is down the stretch of the games. And like Alex, we had sent these tweets like, Brunson has as many turnovers as assists, and he's got as many shot attempts as all this stuff. But as we've said, if you leave these games up to chance, he will burn you. And the Knicks get on this run, and I still didn't fully believe that they were going to complete it probably until they cut it to around 4. And when he hit that 3 over Wemby, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, they're about to win this game. But then Josh Hart, misses that layup. Fox has a terrible turnover, leaves his feet. Hart gets a wide open layup dunk, doesn't know if he wants to dunk it or lay the ball up, misses it. So I'm like, oh, that might be it. That might be the reason the Spurs win the game. And for De'Aaron Fox to get that breakaway and not even like, I thought he should have pulled it out and just taken the foul, shot the 2 free throws. But even if you're going to go up, why don't you try and dunk it? Because OG is right behind you. Like, it's not like he's just going to give you the layup. We're in the NBA Finals. What are you doing? And like Lamar talked about, they did not cover the inbounder. Brunson got a quick shot up. You want to get a quick shot, so you have an opportunity to offensive rebound. Nobody blocks out OG Anunoby. He gets a tip in. I thought San Antonio drew up a beautiful play with 1 second left. I don't know if it got deflected. I don't know if that pass got deflected.
I think Castle mishandled I don't know.
But I thought it probably should have been a lob. I thought it probably should have been towards the rim so they can just go up and tip it in. That is going to hurt. I'm looking at Miss Johnson. I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox. Right? And I'm looking at all these possessions in the second half of what are we trying to get to? Like we're standing around, we're settling, and you could just tell half the shots that they're shooting, momentum is a real thing. Right? So like these quick shots that they're shooting, you're like, they ain't making that. They're not making that. And there was a couple of times, right? They'll get offensive rebounds, they'll get to the free throw line. Alex, you referred to it when Wemby missed both free throws. When he's a really good free throw shooter, I'm like, uh-oh. Like we in trouble. Man, that hurts for a young team in San Antonio to lose like that. Like, obviously this is the worst way, but game 2, turn the ball over, foul, right? And in this game, you're about 29 points and you don't close the deal on the road. You're about to go back home 2-2. This is the question that Alex brought up at the beginning of the series. When will they face this? Like, when will the inexperience slap them in the face? And they got smacked tonight. Because there's no way that you don't close that game out. You got the best player in the world. You won 60-something games. You're all-time, not all-time, but you're a really good defense. You're a great defense. You got to find a way to close that game. You're up 29 points. And they did not do it. So, Alex, where do you think your Spurs go from here? Because they can't just pack up the suitcase and go home. It's 3-1. It's not all the way off the table. You still got to play the game. So where do they go from here to compete going into Game 5 in San Antonio on Saturday?
To be honest with you, man, the one good thing about this team is that every time there's adversity, every time there's been a moment where you think this is where young team lets go of the rope, they don't, right? The series against Oklahoma City, down 2-1, down 3-2, Game 7 in their spot. Go in and win it, right? Against Minnesota, down 0-1. Victor gets himself tossed out of the game. We played admirably through that one. Ant just went nuts in the fourth. You take that one. Win some games in the Portland series without Victor, with the concussion. End up down 17. That Game 4, I think, come back and win it by 20, So one thing about this young team that I really feel like you can be confident in is that they're going to answer the bell. They're going to show up in this series, down 0-2, dropping the first 2 at home. They showed up tonight in Game 4. We didn't finish tonight, clearly. We played about as bad of a half of offensive basketball as you can. I don't really think the defense was the issue. I don't. I don't think the defense was the problem. I mean, we've talked about it before. Guard Brunson straight up, trust Castle, trust Vassell, trust Dylan Harper. He's going to make his shots. That's just what's going to happen, right? It's when he gets those shots and how, right? You got to make it difficult for him. We didn't make it difficult enough for him tonight. I mean, well, he was like 12 of 25. So, he had 36 on 25 shots. So he shot it really well tonight. He wasn't as inefficient as he had been the first three. But, frankly, the issue is offensively at times. The problem became tonight yet again. Things go south when offensively there's no ball movement, there's no player movement, there's no paint touches. Everything is 3-point line and out. We're starting the offense, start going towards the rim later in the clock. You take low percentage jump shots, right? That's the issue. And frankly, that's on the coach. Right. At some point, you've got to reinforce, hey, what are we doing? Go to the basket. Hey, the threes aren't falling anymore. The way they shot the three in the first half, that wasn't going to continue. That's just unsustainable. Right. That's just unsustainable. Right. So if you understand that's unsustainable, we're going to miss some. But most of those 3-pointers are coming off of great looks, great possessions, great paint touches to get wide open threes, high percentage looks. But you have to, Mitch, you have to do something. I think at a certain point, this is again, we start looking at, for a team as talented as we are, this sometimes becomes the issue of having so many good players who can make a shot at the end, right? You don't know who to go to at the very end because coming off the 2-for-1, Fox came up, Fox had a good look at it and just missed it, right? But you'd think, all right, we need a bucket or we need a foul. Hey, go to Victor right here. Right, get something going towards the rim, get a bucket, get fouled, go to the line this time, hopefully make them. Right, Dylan Hart, like something. Right, like it can't be that you can't score 30 points in a half of an NBA game and expect to win it. You just can't. I don't care how big your lead is at the beginning. Right, I don't care how big your lead is at the beginning. Frankly, I think you got to just show up. Game 5, and play like your season's on the line. Like we've done it before. Play as hard as you possibly can. Go all out, right? But I think everything else we did in this game defensively, our formula defensively was perfect. Like we got Carl out of the game early, 2 early fouls. He didn't have a rhythm the entire night. He played poorly, right? I feel like everything we did defensively was fine. I don't feel like in this series defense has really been our issue. I just don't. Our offensive sets, sometimes our structure, sometimes what we aren't getting into. And when we're getting into it, not taking high percentage shots, relying too much on, we're a good 3-point shooting team, but you can't, there are times when it's not falling, you have to go to the basket. Just to see something go down, just to stem the tide a little bit, right? And the worst part, I think, for me in that fourth quarter is, in moments where we were hemorrhaging, we needed a bucket. Very rarely could we get one to calm everybody down, stem the tide. We didn't have it tonight in that second half. The first half, we had an answer. Right. But, all you can do really is come out in game 5 and play as hard as you possibly can. Replicate that formula that you had defensively, because I ain't going to lie. OG's playing phenomenal. I think, to be honest with you, he's truly the finals MVP.
Yeah, I agree.
He's truly the finals MVP. He's the reason this has gone the way that it's gone, right? He's been their most consistent player, like just playing at a really high level right now, right? There's not really much more you can do. We know what they're gonna do. Why do I sound like I'm at an NBA post game? We know what they're calling. They know what we're calling. Get where I'm going. At this point, it's about execution. And defensively, our execution, I think, to hold a team like this who's playing as well as they have been offensively over the last 2 months, to have them, they had 107 tonight, 105 the first 2, and 109 the game 3. I think the issue has not been, credit to New York. I'm not going to say like, it's not necessarily the things that they've done, it's things that we failed to do, right? But the way they've played defense, the way they've defended, the way Mike Brown has coached has, that plays a huge part in it. So, got to see we're really going to see what everybody's constitution is come Saturday night. Cause, we've had different moments where it's like, all right, we could let go of the rope right here. Are you going to have the pride and not let nobody celebrate on your floor, in your building? But leaving, you try to put a night like this behind you. You really just gotta turn the page and move on to the next one. Because if you sit and you dwell on what could have been, what that chance we had, you know, shit, man, I feel like what Steve Harvey tell Omarion and Marcus Houston and you got served. You lost the money, it's gone. Right? You can't sit here and wallow in your misery, right? In the second half, got our ass whooped. But crazy as that sounds, it's not unreasonable to think we can't win 3. Because I could honestly say 3 of these first 4 we could have and should have had, but we don't.
Lamar, what are your thoughts as flipping on the Knicks side? What is their approach? How do they go and attempt to close out this game on Saturday? What are your thoughts from the Knicks perspective?
Very interesting. And, I kind of also agree on OG possibly being the finals MVP. I mean, right now, I'm looking at the stats here. It's averaging 23.8 points per game on 58% shooting from the floor, 55.6% shooting from 3, and 91% shooting from the line. And those numbers there definitely will give you that pretty much at that point. I think if you are the Knicks, the only thing that I want to see for the Knicks is stop starting off slow. That's the only problem because they have done that for 3 of the 4 games that they played. And they have gotten into these 10-point holes where, you know, in game 1, it didn't burn them. Game 3, it did. Game 4, obviously there. But just stop starting off so slowly at that point. And I just think that what really hurt them, obviously, was Cat picking up those 2 fouls. He gets into foul trouble. You're putting Mitchell Robinson out there on the floor for extended minutes. He was not ready for how fast that game was. He was windy in the first quarter of that game. And it was so much so that they had to put in my guy number 55, who I didn't even know that was on the team until today. And I was like, well, wait a minute, is that Langston Galloway? Like, like, I didn't even know who he was on the team. I didn't know who that guy was until he got on the floor, but still, it just did not seem like Mitchell Robinson. He was not ready for that game there. My guy's name is Ariel Hookporty. I never knew who he was until tonight. I didn't even know that the Dallas Mavericks took him in the second round in 2024. Anyways, but like I was saying though, just stop starting off slow. I mean, because it almost bit them in the rear at that point. Get out of foul trouble if you're Cat. Brunson was not shooting too well in the first quarter. That kind of got them at that early hole. And as we mentioned before about Cat, I kind of would like to see him get going a little bit more in the second half. The buckets that he made in the fourth quarter, those were the first points that he scored in the fourth quarter in the series. And so you have to get him going at that point. Now, like I said, it helped them out tonight, but that's the only thing that they have to do in order to try to close this thing out because you got 3 chances to do this, but you can't think about it like we got 3 chances to do this. You have to take advantage of it here in game 5 because if you don't do it then and you let them get back into this series and how close this series has been, it could swing the other way.
Let's go. Do you have any last things that you would like to share before we wrap this thing up?
You wrapping us up early.
I mean, I know that you're.
Man, I'm
you
good, man.
going
Look, man. Sometimes they say, you can't be getting the healing until you talk about it. I'm good, man. Look, I look, I'm about like we can go as long as y'all want to. I'm chilling. I think at least to me, most times, Ken. I think you've heard me say this. most times by the time you see a team play 4 games, you have a really good idea who the better team is. By midway through that 4th game, most times you have a good idea, right? Sometimes it's the 3rd game if the first 3 have just been just completely uncompetitive, right? But after 4 games, I don't find myself feeling like the Knicks are the better team. I just feel like they've executed better. Now, maybe that makes them, at the end of the day, the better team, right? But I think what's frustrating for me about this is that for a group of dudes this young, for a group of dudes with this little experience, the idea that it's here, right? A play here, a play there. Like we've not gotten our doors blown off in this series, right? And it's just really about taking advantage of the opportunities that you have, in those big moments. I think I don't know, man, there comes a point where you got to get a bucket at certain spots,
Yeah.
right? And for Victor, I
Yes.
think that the damnedest thing in the world is what he's averaging somewhere close to 28 a game in this series, something like that, something close to 28, right? And we're all like, yo, you got a ways to go. That's the part, in the second half, I think, he has been inconsistent at times during these playoffs, really starting that Oklahoma City series, right? Where getting the Spurs fortunes kind of swing with his activity level, his aggressiveness, the way he comes out with intent, right? If he comes out with intent to, really have a huge impact on the game and he seems fresh like he did in game 1 of the Oklahoma City series. Then he had 2 games where he looked a little, his legs looked a little heavy. He looked tired in 2 and 3. He wasn't as aggressive, a little bit more passive. It went the way that it went. Game 4, he comes out, he's extremely assertive, has a phenomenal game. Game 5, more similar to games 2 and 3. Game 6, he comes out, plays phenomenal, right? A replay of games 1, 4, replays of games 1 and 4 in that series, right? In this series, inefficient, ineffective, really the first game and a half, that second half of game 2 in the entirety of game 3 in the first half of this one. He was phenomenal, right? When his legs get heavy, he starts, it might sound crazy to say this. The idea that there's a 7'5.5" man on the floor, but at some times you could forget he's there offensively, right? And sometimes that's with him, them not getting the ball in his hands and not being intentional with him, getting to certain spots. Some of that falls on him, some of that falls on coaching, But I think the series is probably over for us in 6, just because you just can't lose 2 of your 3 losses. They can't be like this, right? They just can't. These are 2 games you have to win at the end. You just have to. But, Ken, it does remind me of something, though.
What's that?
Yeah, man. Like, I'll ask y'all this, man. I've been talking too long. Y'all done turned into therapy, but sometimes, you in therapy, you start asking the therapist, be like, yo, doc, man, this ever happened to you? Ken Lamar, when y'all played sports, did y'all ever have a loss from high school that stuck with you? Like, to this day is with you. Like, you have not gotten over.
I mean, every loss that I have sticks with me. But the ones that I coach, they stick with me more. I remember those more because you feel like you can do so much, and then you also have a feeling of helplessness as well. So I feel like I can control the game as much as I can, and then there's like an element where I can't control it. And so you run through all these thoughts after you lose, right? Especially in heartbreaking fashion. Like, what could I have done? Could I have called a timeout here? Could we have drawn up something better here? Like, you think about it all the time. And so it hurts. Like, it is. I mean, y'all know it. Y'all play sports.
Yeah.
You lose in a fashion how they lost tonight. You lose in a fashion how they lost, game 2. It takes a really mentally tough group to be able to regroup quickly, right? Like y'all playing on Saturday. Wednesday is basically over. Like you got a day, travel, get your mind right, watch film, get ready for the next game. That's why I always give so much credit to, even though it was at our expense, that 2014 Spurs team. Because to do that and to lose how they lost in 2013 in game 6, and then to come back and just run roughshod over the league, and like you got to have a high degree of mental fortitude to do that. And so I give them dudes credit for that because everybody can't do that.
And the ad, I mean, I've seen it so much, even as a journalist, and you have teams that some of those players very, very well, and even when I was in high school, I didn't play football, but I had a friend of mine. We had a game, and it was quarterfinals. My sophomore year, we lose by a missed extra point, and it hurt one of my best friends to this day. Like, he literally said that was the only time that he had cried on the field, after a ball game like that. And like you said, it's just the mental fortitude to kind of come right back and to do that, because the Mavericks had something similar like this happening in 2006. They play against the Miami Heat, 2-2 series. The Heat come back. This was the third game of their comeback there. Mavs had to come back, had to go back home. They lose game 6. They lose the series. But then next thing you know, you come back the following season, you win 67 games. We're not going to talk about what happened in the first round of that series because that was, of course, embarrassing there. But to come back after a loss like that and to think about coming back stronger and to put yourself in a situation where a lot of people were thinking that you're probably going to win a championship like that, which eventually they did, that definitely says a lot, and you have to give credit to that. And so, at least for the Spurs, they could just take the day to travel. You flush it basically at that point. You focus on game 5 on Friday. Take the walk through whatever it is, and then hopefully you come out there better, for it, on Saturday and everything. Because again, a few buckets here and there, it's a 3-1 series. This could have been a 3-1 series for San Antonio. And so if you got to just think about it here like this, that, hey, you're still in it and you have not played bad to the point here where we can still try to impact this series, I think you're going to be okay.
There was something I was thinking about. Because when I asked y'all that question, I was like, man, it took me back to my senior year of high school. I ain't even gonna front. But we were undefeated playing a district title game. And mind you, Ken, you remember how terrible Stafford was at football, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And we had the entire, the whole, Greater Houston, everybody was like, wait, y'all boys 9-0 about to play for a district title? When in the previous years, if we would have won 5 games, that was people were damn near ready to throw a parade. We had been terrible for a long while. And that year, we win the first 9 games of the season. Going into the district title game, we were rolling people. Absolutely rolling people. We're playing the Lamar Cougars. And them boys, they used to have some squads. And so we in their house, middle of the third quarter, we up 34-20. We didn't score again. We ended up losing that game, I think 39 or 39-34. No, it was 40-34. It was 40-34. See, it's a shame. 13 years later, I can still tell you the exact score of the game. Right? And to this day, that game is on YouTube. It's on YouTube. And to this day, I can watch the first half of that game, but the moment we go up 2 scores with, quarter and change left, I got to turn it off. Because I still haven't gotten over it. Years later, right? I think for some of these guys, a game like tonight might end up being one of those that you never, like, as a competitor, you never able to like, you're just not able to get over it. And I think for me, maybe what that was I didn't have another like, that was my senior year. That was it. You never get another opportunity with that group of dudes, right? What you can hope for this young team is that, I already don't want to be talking about next year. I don't want to, right? But use this as a learning experience. These are one of the rare times where the experience you needed mattered, right? We're being so young and just you don't know what you don't know. This is where that would have helped, right? To have a guy out on the floor who's, like, this is where I think it would have really like paid dividends there, right? The experience, right? Of maybe losing a first or second round series and coming back the next year, right? But, they're getting it this way. So, you know, and Ken, it's funny. You were supposed to be hosting, Ken, not me. As a coach, if you've had a bad loss, how do you turn around? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you get your guys
I
back
mean,
going?
I've heard a lot of coaches say, like, especially games like this, it's a back and forth of do you show the film? Do you throw it out? Do you only show the good things? Right? Because at this point, we're on the game 5 now. And the only thing you can do is take it one game at a time. And so they did some really good things in this game. So it's a debate of like, do you show it? Do you show the good things of all the things that we did well? Because at this point, also, you got to think, y'all been playing the same team for about a week and a half now. We know all the stuff they're going to run. Like at this point in the season in June, nobody's throwing a new wrinkle out. It's on who's going to make the plays. Like nobody's throwing in anything new. We've gone over all their ATO plays. We've gone over all their out of bounds plays. We've gone over all their end of game situations, what they like to get into, what they like to do, everybody's tendencies. It's a matter of will at this point. And so, I mean, you just gotta like, we going back to the crib. Let's just focus on game 5. Let's just focus on winning game 5, and then we go from there. All the points that we mentioned, every game that we've been in, we've had the lead. In majority of these games, we've been in control. Majority of these games, right? So like we're on the right path. We just haven't finished the job. And down the stretch, I don't know if you preserve your timeouts, Miss Johnson, but down the stretch, call a timeout, draw something up. Draw something up. We got to like emphasize paint touches towards the end of the game. Because the reality is my best player is 7'5". Like that was another reason why I was thinking there's no way the Knicks can come back because the Spurs have built this lead on shooting. So like down the stretch, just get your best player by the rim. Like so I can get high percentage shots. And instead they just kept settling and settling, settling. And so like that has to be the emphasis like, hey, we are at our best when Wemby's jump shots and Wemby's threes are limited. And when he's a presence around the rim. And we have stretches like the Spurs. I was talking to a coach about it today. The stretches where they're playing well, they look great, but they keep going through these lapses. And so the coach was like telling me today, like, I'm trying to find out why is the lapse? Like, because I feel like they're gonna have a lapse in this game. Why is there a lapse in their games where they don't play the entire game like that, or where they can't seem to score? And I called him immediately after the game. He's like, I got about 25, 29 points, shot 8 straight jump shots or 8 straight threes. And like I just said, momentum is a real thing. So like the crowd, you can tell when the crowd is getting back in the game when, maybe when they cut it to 21, 19, and you going down taking a quick shot and we getting the ball back. Like you can't do that. You cannot do that.
I just thought about this. I go front. What I think what gives me some, yo, it's funny. Man, remember how the other day I told y'all, man, I was on that dope, man, and I was high, right? Hey, man, this was what it must feels like after you done sold your Mercedes Benz for $25 on a Subway coupon because you're trying to get it fixed. You know what I'm saying? I heard a dude tell a story one time about how when he first started smoking crack, it was the most fun he had ever had in his life. He said, yeah, and that's before you end up on the streets. Fellas, I'm on the streets. I stink, right? I haven't bathed in 3 or 4 days. I don't know where my next meal is coming from. This is bad, right? This is bad. So I don't know, like, as a team, I feel confident that we're going to show up with some sort of like fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Saturday night. We're going to show up with something, but it's like, all right, how can we? I feel like in this series and the last one, we started out, well, really, if I really think about it, the entire playoffs were strong out of the gate, have a rough second quarter a lot, and then you're able to push it from there, right? But I'm going to be interested to see just how we show up Saturday evening. Because, I mean, Lamar, I ask you this, bro. Have you ever had a moment like in your life where like, forget sports, like just in your life for real, you have something like something happen, you like, I got to get up. I got to keep going. I got to push, right? Like a moment like this, at least for me. Matter of fact, I'll explain a little bit later. Lamar, but you like, have you ever had a moment like that?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of life moments. A lot of life moments that have been like that where, you just it feels surreal when it happens, but then you think about it as the day and it's like, yeah, but the next day hopefully we can make it better and all that. I will say this. I think this kind of also helps Wimby's I shouldn't say villain arc, but maybe this kind of helps his arc out a little bit here because you look at the Olympics, for example, and how they lost in the Olympics to Team USA. And he basically said, I never want to feel this ever again. And maybe he looks at this and it's kind of like the same way. And this might be the one thing that also motivates him to push him better. Like, shoot, after this year, he was training with the monks, he was training with Kevin Garnett and all that stuff just to kind of practice his zen, but also get mentally tougher. I mean, I shudder to think what could happen between now and year 4 for him because I think this might be the thing that might even take him up to a whole nother level. And it's crazy to think him say that about a 7'4" alien that we've never seen before doing all the things that we've seen him do. But I think this might be one of those things that also takes him up there too. But yeah, I mean the thing is, um, you just have to bounce back. That's the other thing about it. I mean, I look back at the 2011 Mavericks. The Mavs had something similar happen to that here, where they played against Brandon Roy in the Game 4 of the playoffs. Brandon Roy's last game, his game-winning shot. Everybody's thinking same old Mavericks. We're not going to do any well. And the next thing you know, the Mavs win their next 7 games in the playoffs, and then go ahead and win the championship like that. So you can just use that as fuel, basically.
Yeah, this is a lot. Yeah, man. There's a lot. What's up, Ken?
I mean, I just want to say, I've said it before. I said it at the beginning of the year. We can pull up the tapes. When the Spurs traded for De'Aaron Fox, they needed a point guard. They did not expect for Fox to be out for the season, and they did not expect for Wemby to not finish that season. And for them to then acquire the number 2 pick, which they got Dylan Harper. If I am the Spurs, I'm taking phone calls this summer because my young core is here. 22, 23, Wemby, Harper, Castle, Carter Bryant, if he can develop a consistent jump shot. We've got our core. Fox is a 29-year-old veteran in this league who's on a, 4-year, $230 million contract?
Something like it.
If I have a 29-year-old that's on a 4-year, $230 million contract, I'm looking at him as a guy that needs to steady the ship. He did not steady the ship in a game where we needed it the most. He did make a big shot. I I thought one of the shots that he made, I want to say the Spurs called a timeout. He came out, you know, got the defender on his heels, pulled up for a jump shot, made it. Wemby came down, pulled up for a jump shot, made it. I said, wow, that was a big stretch, right? It kind of turned the tide, gave the Spurs a little bit of momentum back. But he's got the turnover where he leaves his feet, turns it over to Josh Hart, even though Josh Hart misses it. And then the layup, and he said in the postgame, he was trying to make a layup go by 3. OG made a good block. It's the right answer, but it's not the right. It's not right at the same time because of what actually happened. Dribble the ball out, make him foul you, and then we can go from there. I'm not looking at. He does not give a steady presence vibe to me, and I'm paying him $230 million.
This is probably, because that thing has come up so often this year, right? Get rid of Fox, get rid of Fox, get rid of Fox, right? I think sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I think we look at things as like when something bad happens, it's like, well, the whole trade Fox theory, it just becomes some sort of like confirmation bias, right? See, this is why we should trade the guy, right? But in every other situation, this year we needed him. We needed a bucket. We needed a big moment. We needed it. He's been, some of those shots he made in Game 7, some of the shots, the shot he just made the other night, right? Game 3 and 4 against Portland when he was really good, right? And I don't, it's one of those things where there are so many things everybody collectively did terribly.
Sure.
His is going to be the one that's like the most glaring because it was like absolutely near the end of the game as a glaring mistake. But, in my head, at least to me, if we need a wing guy, because that's the big thing. You've talked about it, my boy. Shout out to Ja'Cory. He's mentioned it. A wing is what we need, right? I think the thought is that next year, Carter Bryant takes a jump, July, August, September, right? To where you can have your cake and eat it too, right? You've got an older, Carter Bryant's taking a leap and he can, play more minutes and, lessen the reliance on Harrison Barnes. And in some cases, Champagnie, right? But also you can still keep Fox while you have Harper off the bench, still on a rookie contract. You got Victor, Harper, and Castle all on rookie deals. I think that's the goal there, right? So sometimes, I don't know, as frustrated and upset as I am on a night like tonight, I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, I think you make a compelling point, right? About he's supposed to steady the ship, and every other time he's done it, but the biggest game of the year he didn't, right?
That's literally why I'm paying you $51 million this year.
Right. So
and this is the first year of the deal.
It kicks in next year. I think it kicks in next year. But yeah, point being.
Yeah, point being, in 2029, 2030 season, I'm going to be paying you $63 million. And I've seen what I needed to see. I'm not saying he's a bum. He's not a bum. He's had good moments. Game 7 was a great moment for him, Oklahoma City. But this ain't something that I'm coming up with a playoff bias. I said it from the jump when the Spurs got the number 2 pick.
Bro, no doubt. Oh, yeah, I'm saying other people sometimes they'll be like,
oh, yeah, sure. It's easy to say just get rid, like Oklahoma City with the Chet thing. It's right now, right? It does not look good right now. But I'm thinking about just team construction, roster construction. I got what I need. I got my superstars and I got my supporting stars. I need guys that's going to be around these dudes to help us win. Because now, you got to think about it. After this year, I'm not looking for nobody else to steady the ship. Y'all done been in the water now. Y'all need to know how to steady the ship. Harper, Castle, Wemby. So I need some dudes that's going to be able to play around them. And like you said, that's going to have roster spots that can play. Because I got 4 roster spots right now that are unplayable.
Yo. That's been my crazy to think about, right? The Spurs, every team has 15 guys on the roster, Ken. And I think, did I text you about that yesterday? About the 4 guys that are unplayable?
Yep. Yes, you did.
We have 15 guys on the roster, Lamar, but there are really only 10 guys that have the possibility of us actually putting in the game. During actual minutes. Because we're not going to run Biombo. Biombo is like he's like an emeritus professor, right? He still got an
Glorified
office.
assistant coach.
Yeah, like he Bismack Biombo, if he was a professor, he still got an office, you know, in the department, but you know, he don't teach, right? He's a professor at this point in name only, right? He's really there in the mentorship role, right? Plumlee, unplayable. Olynyk with his ankle socks, unplayable, right? Like you got 3 unplayable bigs, right? You need one of those spots to go to a guy you can give some actual run to, right? One of those. You know, I know Ken, you know, you had been mentioning the whole Fox issue all year, right? And the whole thing with me is, all right, to get rid of Fox means, all right, Dylan Harper is ready, right? And you know, is he ready for those expectations? Is he ready for the weight of what those expectations will look like? I don't know. But again, I'm saying that about this entire young core that we've got. You know, were we ready? By were we ready? We're not like, were we ready for, like, you know, I think, let me back up. I don't think this is an issue of talent. It's clearly not a talent issue. This is a execution issue, right? And so, you know, like I said, we talked about it. You don't want to already be pivoting towards next year, right? But there's got to be something that can be done that can ensure this never happens again. And I think for me, we've talked a lot about the players, but you know, we've mentioned Mitch here and there, but like a lot of this, Mitch is going to have to eat because a lot of this is on him, right? Because, you know, not even because I'm thinking like between game 2 and this one, Lamar, not telling your guys, hey, we get a rebound right here. This is who's bringing the ball up, right? Or hey, we get a rebound right here. You know, they miss a shot, we get it off a miss. You know, do not like get fouled. Be ready, right? It just seems like that was just a fly by the seat of your pants sequence that Mitch hadn't really, I don't want to say wasn't prepared for, right? But I don't think he's handled end of game situations well at times. And tonight might be the biggest example. You know what I'm saying, Lamar?
Yeah, you got to know when to call the timeouts and stuff. And you know, like I said, like we talked about that in game 2, where um you could have called a timeout at that point. You had that one timeout. Unfortunately, you did not call it, and it goes back the other way here, where the Knicks win that game there. I felt like something similar also could have happened right there, where I was screaming timeout for Mike Brown. Like he needed to call a timeout at one of those points before the inbounds play, where it seemed like everything had kind of got discombobulated, and I'm like, dang, I'm very Mike Brown has to be very lucky that the Spurs had a foul there in that situation, because I think there was the one that, I think it was Brunson, where he could have got called for a backcourt violation. I want to say, I think it was
Yeah.
either Brunson. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he could have got called for a backcourt violation, and how different this whole thing could have been at that point if he would have been called for that, and we would have been crucifying Mike Brown. Why didn't you call timeout in this situation? You could have done that. Got a play set up there, in this case there. So I think that's another thing that, obviously, for Mitch, this is going to help him out a whole lot too in this situation, because he's also a young coach trying to learn these things as well. I mean, a lot of people at one point was talking about Joe Mazzulla, and after his first run with the Celtics, people were saying that they needed to fire him, and I'm like, why are we going to fire a guy that, you know, took over for Mr. Steal Your Girl Ime Udoka, and then, you know, got this team to game 7 of the conference finals and battling back from a 3-0 deficit, you know? Like, so I think it's just something that as you get along, you kind of learn these things, and it's like medicine that, you know, you don't want to take, but then you finally realize, okay, it did be good, more good than anything.
That's all I got, man. I mean, this has been we said it on what, Monday. Tuesday, whenever the game was. Monday. This has been a great final series. I really got to give a shout out to Wemby because he plays a big role in these last two series, Oklahoma City and now this NBA Finals. The best player in the world hates losing, and you can tell how badly he wants to win. And everybody's enjoying it. Both teams are playing hard. And then, like, on the opposite side of that, New York is having, more playoff success than they've had in decades, right? So you got the best player in the world versus the city of New York. This is great for the NBA. Like, I haven't been this excited to watch an NBA Finals probably since Cavs Warriors. Like, shout out to these dudes. I really would have loved for it to be 2-2 because then, it probably would have went 7. But this is a great ending. I mean, a great game. Shout out to Jalen Brunson too, man. That dude, there's a lot of people that I'm sure that, ESPN has put above him in the league and, better players. I don't know how many players I would trust with the ball in their hands more down the stretch of games right now than Jalen Brunson. That dude is a tough shot maker, man. And if they win this championship and he is the best player on that team, he will join elite company of small guards that were the best players on championship teams. Isaiah Thomas, Steph Curry, Jalen Brunson. Like it's really not that many. And the way that he's doing it, is not the most efficient, and he's turned the ball over a lot and he's dribbled so much sometimes. But if it comes down to it, man, if it's the last 5 minutes of a game and it's a 1 or 2 possession game, that dude's gonna make something happen. And the Spurs, they were trying to get the ball out of his hands. They were doing a pretty good job towards the end getting the ball out of his hands. But I mean, tough shot after tough shot. So shout out to that dude, man. Because I mean, sometimes you just got to tip your cap. Like when he made the shot over Wemby, he's 7'5" and he jumped. Like, and he still made it. Like sometimes you just got to tip your cap, man. That was a really good game. That was a really good game. You guys got anything else? And that's a wrap. Wow, I've never been on this side of doing things.
I was about to say, kid, I got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's another episode of the Game Plan Podcast, guys. Kennedy Miller, my brother.
I'm sorry that we had to do this at your expense.
I'll just say this, brother. Y'all were here for me in my time in need. Black men's mental health matter.
I will tell you this. You're a better man than me. Because ain't no way I would have done no podcast. If the Cowboys lost the Super Bowl like this, you think you would have got me on here 20 minutes after? Or if the, like LeBron and the Lakers or the Heat in his heyday, if they had lost a game like this, there's no way I would be recording. No way.
Hey, man,
No way.
I say this, man. You have to be, Granddaddy told me this, you have to be, you talk your shit in victory, you might have to eat it or shovel it in defeat, right? And I must say, my boots smell badly. I need to be power washed at this point. So yeah, man, kid, where can they find you on Twitter, man?
Y'all can follow me on Twitter _ Kennedy Miller _ Again, that's _ Kennedy Miller _
Lamar Gafford, my guy.
Yes, sir.
Where can they find you, big dog? Social media, all of your work. Where can they find it?
Yeah, you can find me once again on Twitter at Lamar Gafford, all in one word. Once again at Lamar Gafford. You can find me on Instagram, primetime2832, and you can also find my works on sinlapreps.com.
All right. Don't forget to follow the official Game Plan Podcast Instagram on @ the Game Plan Podcast. Again, on Instagram @ the Game Plan Podcast. Also, follow our show on YouTube to where if you're watching on video, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tell 10 friends, tell 10 more about the Game Plan Podcast. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. For Kennedy Miller and Lamar Gafford, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Take it light.